For the first time, we're giving you a VIP look at the industry that never sleeps.
Hundreds of millions, if not billions, being spent.
On this episode, we're talking massive growth in women's sports.
The NCAA is leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table.
New leagues are emerging faster than you can say multi-million-dollar deal.
These are all huge opportunities.
The 2028 Olympics are primed to be a game changer.
You can't just shrink it and pink it.
And women are carrying the ball in a once male-dominated arena.
2 NFL teams playing each other with 2 NFL female presidents for the first time.
This is Sports Business Journal, Inside the Industry.
And I think the biggest story is obviously women's sports, right?
Women's sports is exploding.
To see how much women across sports has increased is just unbelievable.
I mean, it's about time, thank God.
Angel Reese, one of the best offensive rebounders in the league.
Women's sports is everything. It's the only thing I ever want to talk about.
When I tell you things have changed, and it's for the better. We're out here owning, and the women from our division are doing nothing but stepping their game up.
Women's sports just has a unique value proposition, a unique trajectory, unique characteristics.
And I think the revenue had to come along. You know, I think the viewership had to come along, and now it's there, and we just need to keep it up.
Women's sports revenue is going to hit $1.3 billion.
You know, what we've all seen has been enormous, and it's only a beginning.
Welcome to Sports Business Journal, Inside the Industry. I'm your host, Tariq El-Bashir, and today we're unpacking some big female energy. And here to break it down with me is Sports Business Journal publisher Abe Madkour and Sports Business Journal Olympics reporter Rachel Axon. Hey, how about that? We're back.
I love it. They didn't cancel us after the first one. Let's have some fun.
Absolutely. How about those highlights there?
It's been a huge area of growth. The women's sports space has been so undervalued for so long, and what we're seeing now is the market starting to catch up with the interest that's there, and long time coming.
So I've been in this business 30 years, and I will say every conversation I have now with people, it starts around women's sports. And you're going to continue to see interest, energy, enthusiasm around women's sports for the foreseeable future. There are no real headwinds getting in its way.
Well, I wouldn't say that. I would say what we're seeing is the removal of the caps that have kind of held things back, right? So, perfect example, Alona Mar, the rugby player, U.S. rugby player, who has a great social media following, a positive message, and won an Olympic medal. She is playing in England for the Bristol Bears, and that's a club that had to move her opening match to a bigger venue to accommodate what became a record attendance. And we're seeing that in a lot of places, that all these sort of artificial limitations that when you think outside the box, we're seeing what the potential really is there.
For the decision makers in sports, like what was the aha moment? When did they realize, you know what, there's an investment opportunity there, we can make some money?
I just think it's been a growth pattern over the years. I can't see one aha moment.
I wouldn't say one aha moment, but there have been enough cultural touch points that I think have brought this to the consciousness. The first one that came to my mind was the NCAA tournament during COVID, and you had Sedona Prince taking video and showing the men have this weight room and we have this weight rack and they have this court and we have this. And it became kind of glaringly obvious. And this prompted the NCAA to study. And that report found that the NCAA is leaving tens of millions of dollars on the table every year in how they were treating it. So it's literally only since 2020 that the women have been allowed to use the term March Madness. Think about how crazy that is. So it's things like that. It's things like the equal pay fight in women's soccer, right? The U.S. women's national team had to fight very hard for equal pay when, by every measure, they are far more accomplished than their men's counterparts. I feel like every other day something comes up, a data point, something happens that just further demonstrates this isn't just a charitable cause, it's good business to get into this.
Guys, I want to take a moment to acknowledge the success the WNBA has had here over the past year, because the numbers are absolutely staggering. 2.35 million regular season fans, a 242% increase in sold out games, record-breaking viewership with over 54 million unique views across all platforms.
Those are all real numbers, and it all starts with the product on the court.
Caitlin Clark is not disappointing the sellout crowd.
We have to talk about the growth of women's basketball and just the absolute explosion.
Stewart elevates and finishes.
record attendance for this year. They drew more fans than ever before.
2022, we didn't open the Upper Bowl at all. Last year in 23, we opened the Upper Bowl for our playoff games. In 24, we opened the Upper Bowl for every single game. And for 2025, we are now selling season tickets in the Upper Bowl. So that just kind of shows you.
First time ever back-to-back WNBA games, both in downtown DC at Capital One, 20,000 seat arena. I think it's going to be really cool.
Out to Edwards, the jumper, gets that to go.
We're here to see Caitlin Clark. And the Mystics. Keep that in mind, Matthew.
The official number, 20,711. It has now become the largest attended game in WNBA history.
The WNBA season, it's been the highest rated ever on ESPN.
More people watched Caitlin Clark, her final NCAA game. You had 18.9 million viewers. More that have ever watched in the history of sports, a World Series game, a Stanley Cup game.
Our revenue in the WNBA is up 182%.
For ESPN?
For ESPN. For ESPN, 182%. That's significant.
The finals averaged 1.6 million, and that was without Caitlin Clark. Some people think this is just a Caitlin Clark moment. It's so much more than that. It's really sustainable.
So guys, I know what was just said there at the end, but I got to ask the question. Is this big uptick solely attributable to Caitlin Clark?
Not solely. I think Kim Stone said it well. It's not just a moment, it's a movement. But let's not overlook, there is tremendous talent in this league that I think now is getting the exposure it deserved and it warranted. So you're seeing not just Caitlin, but Angel Reese, Asia Wilson. You've got other players coming up, but Caitlin Clark has driven much, if not most, of this increase in the WNBA's interest this year.
Rachel, what say you?
I'll go with you on much. Obviously, she's a phenomenal generational talent, and fans have flocked from her Iowa days now to her with the Fever. But as Kim pointed out, the WNBA Finals, in which Caitlin Clark did not play, were the most viewed finals in 25 years for the league.
Let me play devil's advocate. You know, maybe did she bring more people into the fold, and then they now were more interested in the final?
And I think she said this. She is glad, right? For people, if people are coming to basketball because of her game and they see something that she likes, that is great. That is awesome. I think what people around women's basketball and the WNBA and the league have been saying, you know, for years is like, there's been good players here, right?
Yeah.
I cover the Olympics, and in Paris, the team won an 8th consecutive gold medal, and people still watched even though Caitlin wasn't there.
I agree. I will say, I've been to a Caitlin Clark game when she was playing at Iowa, and it was unlike anything I've seen in terms of a following in sports. It felt like Jordan, it felt like Brady in terms of the people just trying to rush the court to see and meet her. She is that generational talent that we've been waiting for, I think, at the W level.
I think that's fair, and I think where the WNBA needs to position is, Caitlin is what got you here, what keeps you here, what helps you stay, what makes you become a Liberty fan instead of a Fever fan.
Where do we go from here?
We need more corporate support. We need more viewership. We need more distribution of content for greater reach across women's sports. And let's be clear, the W is still losing a lot of money.
Yeah.
How many more years to break even or turn a profit?
I can't give you time, but it all feeds into a number of things. They just got a big media rights deal as part of the NBA deal. They'll see a new collective bargaining agreement, which will change the entire financial structure of the league in terms of salaries and distributions to teams.
I would also mention, you know, this isn't a WNBA thing, but Unrivaled is launching.
Right.
And that is a 3-on-3 league started by Brianna Stewart and Nafisa Collier, and the players are making 6-figure salaries. So they're real financial opportunities that, for the most part, have not existed for women's basketball players unless they were willing to go play overseas.
Yeah, I was going to say,
out of season.
Will that 3-on-3 league allow those players to not have to go to Israel or Greece or some of these other places?
Yes, to some extent. To some extent.
All right, well, we've got to take a break, but when we return, there's a flag on the Olympic field And later, our spirits have never been higher. All that and more is still to come on Inside the Industry. The 2024 Olympics didn't just showcase incredible athletic feats, it marked a turning point for women's sports on a global stage. We saw record-breaking performances, packed arenas, and a surge in viewership that proved the world is watching and wants more. Enter flag football, a fast-growing, action-packed sport that's gaining momentum across the U.S. and beyond.
With the NFL behind flag football, you're going to see this thing turbocharged.
Flag football is increasingly a bigger focus for us at the NFL.
They see it as a definite top of the funnel driver of talent and of interest.
We've been doing a lot more in the flag football space, right, in terms of youth activation.
Our team has hosted high school championships, not only for tackle, but for flag, boys and girls.
It's going to be in the LA 28 Olympics for both men and women.
And if you've been paying attention, I want to make sure I highlight this. Bringing this to the international stage for the Olympics in LA 28 is extremely important.
I'm so excited for flag at the Olympics.
It's going to be great.
Watching
It's going to be great.
For my daughter to see it, and women can play flag football, it's amazing.
This is exciting, and it's so much more than just adding a new sport. Almost 50% of NFL fans are female. So how is this just happening?
Well, we've got to remember, right? We're coming to this from a very American viewpoint, but for an Olympic space, this has been a decade in the making. The International Olympic Committee didn't recognize flag football until 2013, and what it took to get in the Olympics was LA 28 proposing it. So this has been a process. Now the question will be if it hangs around after LA.
The biggest thing here is the NFL is behind this. And that means when the NFL is behind something, we're going to see and read and hear a lot about it. They see this as an incredible pipeline of interest because they see young women playing this because it's going to be a sanctioned high school sport in so many states in just a few years. It's also every NFL owners meeting they have right now. Roger Goodell stresses the growth of flag football. So it's a huge initiative for the NFL.
I would also add, there's like a merchandising thing, right? You can't just shrink it and pink it. And for many years, the NFL, to some degree, rightly has been criticized for, in October for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, everything's pink. But how are we otherwise serving female fans? This is a way, right, to be developing that fandom with their local NFL franchise, but then through their own love of football from participating in it.
Well, guys, we talk about the NFL's involvement in growing the sport. The Carolina Panthers have spent years expanding flag football in North Carolina and South Carolina, thanks in large part to the team's president, Kristi Coleman, who is one of only 2 female presidents in the NFL. And Abe, she was an honoree at SBJ's 2024 Game Changers Award.
Yeah, she was. And Game Changers are women who work in the business of sports who have really excelled. Thought leaders, very, very innovative. I would say change agents. And here's a news flash. Working for an NFL owner, not an easy job. And at Tepper Sports and Entertainment, she oversees an NFL team and a Major League Soccer team and a world-class venue at Bank of America Stadium. That's pretty much a game changer in my book.
And on top of that, she doesn't see what all the fuss is about, which I love. Let's take a look.
So my very first role with the Carolina Panthers was controller. I came in as controller and I thought I was going to be a controller for the rest of my life. And I just, I did my job the best that I could and then just got promoted to the next thing and did that job the best I could and got promoted to the next thing and did that job as best as I could. I'm very proud to be the CEO of Tepper Sports, leading both the NFL and our MLS team. My very first NFL owners meeting, I'm with David Tepper at the table and he's like, Kristi, look around this room. There's nobody in here that looks like you. You don't think about it. It's not something that I think about, but it is something I think people notice. I have to remind myself, there's so many young people, so many young women, so many young men that look at me in this role and they realize, hey, wait, I can do that. What was really interesting was the Raiders game this season. You know, 2 NFL teams playing each other with 2 NFL female presidents for the first time. And, you know, I didn't think that was a big deal. It's just 2 teams playing each other, you know, who cares? But it's not a who cares moment. That was an aha, this does matter because this hasn't happened, one, and it should happen. There's no reason there's not more women, female presidents. It just goes back to showing that there is opportunity for young people, and hopefully in not so long distant future, we'll have more games where there's more female team presidents playing against each other.
Rachel, women have made big strides in other industries, but as Kristi noted, it's been a lot slower in sports. Why do you think that is?
Oh, how long do we have? Title IX was the law in 1972 that allowed women access to equal education, right? And that includes sports. And we've seen just the revolutionary change that has made. But this industry has long been and continues to be dominated by men at the highest levels. And it has taken decades of, you know, qualified women knocking on the door, showing that they're capable, working their way up. You know, she mentioned being the only woman in the room or look around. And so this is still an industry where it's certainly we're making headway, and people like Kristi are great. We're still having a lot of firsts, right? And we'll have true progress when we can't just name all the women in these roles.
I also see when I go to speak at colleges and sports management programs on campus, those classes incredibly diverse. And I think you're going to see a far more diverse workforce enter the sports business in the years ahead.
Okay, before we go to break, you know I have to get some trivia in here, which means it's time for the Money Minute. Today's question is, who was the highest paid female athlete in 2024 and what was her total income? Any guesses, guys?
Got to come out of an individual sport, so it's, for me, a golf or tennis. I don't know.
It's got to be tennis.
Right.
We'll find out who was right when we come back. Plus, a look at the skyrocketing net worth inside the National Women's Soccer League.
She bought the team for $35 million, and that value has just tripled.
Okay, the question was, which female athlete took home the biggest paycheck in 2024? Well, according to Forbes, that would be U.S. tennis star Coco Gauff, bringing in $34.4 million. Rachel, are you surprised at all?
Not remotely. If you look at, obviously Coco had an incredible year, but if you look at the traditional history of women's sports, right? Tennis and golf were the ladylike sports that women have been able to play for much longer at the pro level. So the majority of them, I would expect, would be from tennis or golf.
6 of the top 10.
Yeah.
Bingo.
$34.4 million, which is just shy of what Michele Kang paid for the Washington Spirit, a team that is now worth $95 million, less than 3 years later. Her investment and leadership have been instrumental not only for women's soccer, but women's sports as a whole.
Spirit are ready to roll. Oh, that is a stunner! A wonder goal! Knocked down, Kingsbury's got it. They're in lead! Let's go.
Michele doesn't stop at just the Washington Spirit. She had that 2 years ago. She's on to world domination. Michele is not just building the Washington Spirit, she's investing in research and development. Only 6% of research dollars go into actually understanding women's bodies and how they perform. And I remember with the Miami Heat, back when I started, I remember going to a practice session and they had this guy set up and he was taking blood samples of the players and he said, we're analyzing your blood to understand how your body, how the players' bodies react post practice and such. And that stuff never happened in the women's game. It is a completely different time. It is an amazing time to be in because it's not just about women's sports. There is a whole infrastructure and ecosystem that is sustaining this movement and this moment.
Rachel, how important is it to have someone like Michele who's not just talking the talk, but ponying up the cash?
It's actually really hard to overstate. You know, I was in Paris In the Olympics, this was remarkable. Michele Kang had never seen a rugby match. And then she went out and watched the U.S. women, and within 24 hours, committed $4 million for that program. A few months later, she comes out with a $30 million donation to U.S. Soccer for the development of the girls' game. There's not many people doing what she is doing in the women's sports space.
I mean, to your point, she is a powerful, powerful force. We've seen a lot of people come and go in women's sports. She's going to be a long-time power player because she has the resources and she's willing to invest them.
And this growth we're seeing, it goes far beyond soccer and basketball. We're seeing it in the creation of the Professional Women's Hockey League and expansion leagues like Athletes Unlimited and Unrivaled. It was the Nebraska versus Omaha volleyball game at Memorial Stadium in Lincoln, Nebraska that drew over 92,000 fans, breaking the world record for the largest attended women's sporting event. Abe, what are we witnessing with these emerging and expanding sports?
Well, first, there's just an appetite for these sports, and there's an appetite and interest to follow them and engage with them. And so across the scope, we've mentioned Unrivaled, 3-on-3 basketball, Professional Women's Hockey League. And I think some of this is driven by private equity. They see an underserved audience that they can aggregate.
Agree?
Yeah, I think the theme of this show, the theme of women's sports, right, is underserved or undervalued, right? And, we talk about these emerging leagues. I think to some degree the success of these leagues will depend on the collegiate space. Not every NCAA volleyball program could put 92,000 people in a football stadium, but Nebraska thought outside the box, leveraged the fervor of the fan base for their vaunted program and did something remarkable. And the challenge, or the question that I hear from people, and the challenge that I think is out there for the innovative athletic director who wants to do it, is what could happen to this women's program if I gave it the same backing, publicity, support, etc., that the male peer gets? NCAA gymnastics, for example, hugely popular at the NCAA level. How can these schools take the interest that we can see is there and leverage that? If they can bolster those programs, that there's every opportunity for those leagues to do well.
All right, guys, well, we're almost out of time. Final thoughts?
There's a lot of money on the sidelines. There's a lot of people who want to invest in sports. And the avenue that they see a lot of them to invest is in women's sports. That's why we're seeing Unrivaled, a couple of these volleyball leagues, a couple of these different basketball leagues. They see these as great growth potential businesses.
Along the same lines, the Sports Innovation Lab came out with a report last year that showed potential $4 billion in market for women's sports, just merchandise, right? I don't know that we can get to there, and it would take some time, but it's all speaking to the untapped potential, right? The brands who find a way in and to do it authentically and can connect with the athlete team and the audience will be rewarded for it. But too many of them are sitting on the sidelines right now. They need to get in the game.
Great stuff. What a time it has been and continues to be for both women's sports and women working in sports. If one thing is clear from today's discussion, this is certainly a movement, not a moment, inspiring the next generation of athletes, fans, and leaders alike. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next time on Sports Business Journal, Inside the Industry.